A very warm welcome. My name is Doya Snijders. I'm the Science, Technology and Innovation Counselor of the Netherlands and India. And I'm really happy to have this hybrid event here in the India Habitat Center. I don't know if you have been walking around the Habitat Center, but it is a beautiful place, which is, the architecture is all about sustainability. There's open places, it's very green. So I think it's built for future generations as well. And I think it's a very appropriate place to have these talks on hydrogen and on our future with maybe a hydrogen economy. This is actually an exciting week, just to give you a news update from the Netherlands for hydrogen. Firstly, GasUnie, one of the organizations in the Netherlands, they announced that they are working on a transport network for hydrogen throughout all of Netherlands, and they've actually started working on it. So this is a transport network that is going to connect the ports of the Netherlands to the industrial clusters, but also very important, it's going to connect all of the Netherlands to our neighbors, not only to nationally, but also to Belgium and to Germany. And also the Netherlands, of course, we have started making a natural gas network pipelines in the 50s and in the 60s already. So it is a network that we can reuse. So about 80% of this green hydrogen network can actually be built upon the existing infrastructure. Secondly, maybe you heard about it, Shell, they have made an investment decision this week and launched it with our Prime Minister of 1 billion euros to start making the biggest green hydrogen plant in all of Europe, H1 around Rotterdam. This was a great announcement that they'll be working on in the months and years to come, and then also build on a second one. And thirdly, I like to put it in this little row of updates, but it's maybe a bit of a different scale. We are also launching our report today. Of course, the report is called Towards a Clean Hydrogen Ecosystem, Opportunities for Indo-Dutch Cooperation. Welcome, sir. And I think it's a very good time because India at the moment is rolling out its green hydrogen mission, its green hydrogen policies. And what we see is that an economy is starting up and there's a lot of collaboration possibilities, not only for business, but also very much for government to government relations and also for research opportunities. So we all, I think, realize that we cannot do this alone. We have to work together. And there's a lot of questions here. So that's why the last couple of months we've been working with TERI. We're very happy that they accepted our request to write a report on this and to answer some questions. What are actually possibilities for working together on hydrogen? So we've got a great panel session lined up with fantastic speakers from academia, from business, from government. And we've also got a couple of honorary guests who have just all arrived here in front of the room. So I think without much further ado, we will get started. And no, well, let me say one more thing, because we've already got a very nice filled room here, but we are not alone. Besides this, also, we've got a virtual audience because it is being live streamed. So we've got a very big group of people also from the Netherlands that I want to welcome. And let us get this session started. We're starting out with some wise words from our honorary guests. And first of all, we would like to start with His Excellency, the Ambassador of the Netherlands, Nepal and Bhutan, Martin van den Berg. The floor is yours. I think there's a microphone right there, unless you want to stand here.
Thank you so much, Doyan. It's really a great pleasure to be here on this launch. Very important, I think, and a very warm welcome to all our guests, our participants in India, in the Netherlands, so to say, and a very warm welcome, special welcome to, of course, Fiba Dawan. Very nice, again, working together. Our professor from Groningen, Professor Aravind, and also our main speakers here today. And it's really a pleasure to be here. Also on this particular moment, as we can see around, we read newspapers, I think our world is in a perfect storm. We had a pandemic, we have the Ukrainian-Russia war, we have high energy and food prices, and I can assure you that politicians don't like high inflations. There's a long list of politicians who lost elections because of high inflations. But we do not only face this perfect storm, we also face huge long-term challenges. And one, of course, is the climate challenge. And that's, I think, why we are here. But besides this climate challenge, we see increasing challenges on inequality, political tensions, and everything against a background of a perhaps economic recession. So it's not a nice time, but at the same time, I think a very challenging, interesting time. But how do we all manage this? And are we able to manage this? I think the jury is still out, but I think we as a group can be part of how we are going to manage this. Because one thing is key. I think that global collaboration remains vital to protect us against almost everything, whether it's the change in the climate, whether it's inequality, whether it's a pandemic. I think global international collaboration is key. And I think that's why it's so wonderful to be here, because we are part of this international global collaboration. We are a great example how we need to work together internationally to address and to face those global challenges. Because we all realize we need to address, and we have the ambition for carbon neutrality. And it's key, and clean hydrogen is key to our understanding and energy. And it presents us with an exciting field that has a bright future. But as we will discuss today also, there are lots of research questions. We have to see about business models. They have to prove themselves, those business models. And we can only, again, do this together. And all the technologies we have to scale up, again, challenges. And we can also only do this together. And both India and the Netherlands have a huge ambition in hydrogen. So I think we are a perfect match, and maybe a love marriage. And if you look to our relationship between the Netherlands and India, I think we are a very successful marriage. We celebrate 75 years of diplomatic ties today, and it's a very successful marriage, a very successful match, I would say. India launched, with your Honorable Prime Minister last year, the National Hydrogen Mission. The Netherlands launched its National Hydrogen Strategy. As was said, the Netherlands has a very strong private sector like Shell, which was mentioned in the hydrogen. But we have a lot of scientists. One illustration is here at the table today, and citizens, policymakers, and we have to work together in what we very often call a kind of a polder model, working together on addressing these challenges. And we have, which is, I think, unique in the world, an amazing natural gas grid system, which can be perfectly transformed in a system for hydrogen, clean hydrogen, not only for transportation, but also, I think, for storage. So I think what I see is two countries with huge ambitions, but a lot of expertise and knowledge to work together. So we have to look to the next steps in terms of R&D collaboration, in business collaboration, adoption of new technologies, exchange of talents, exchange of expertise, and discuss planning for hydrogen valleys. The Netherlands is the country with the first hydrogen valley in Europe, or maybe even in the world. So I think we are very well positioned together with India to see how we together can make the change, can be the change in the hydrogen we would like to see in the world. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Ambassador. Second up is also someone that we're very happy to have here, Dr. Viba Dawan, who is the DG, the Director General of TERI. And besides being the director, we had some talks as well, and she is also very much an expert in the field of renewable energies. She's working very much on biorefineries and also the nexus between biorefineries and also hydrogen. So I'm very happy that you're here, and we would love to hear your opening words.
Thank you so much. And I'll say it's a great day for TERI as well. We are, and some of you already know TERI. TERI it's a not-for-profit research organization, and we are almost 50 years old. We have completed 48 years. And I'll just like to go back why this institute was established. It was established by Tata Group of Companies. And the idea was why we are not for profit, that we should look into problems that mankind is going to face in the future. And that's how TERI started working on renewable energy. And of course, as the time passed from fund-giving organization, we became fund-seeking organization so that we can do our own research and so on. We were also early voices in the field of climate change, not just for India, but I'll say at the global level. After 50 years of India's independence, when everyone was talking only about development, TERI brought out a report, what we called Green India 2047. And it was, the entire study was supported by the corporate sector. And what we highlighted was that development is extremely important, but let's move towards sustainable development. And we still say the same, that it is not that compromise on development. India as an economy, we really have to grow many folds in next few years to come. We also talk in terms of emissions, and proudly so, we say that we are much below the world average. But what we should also worry about, that in terms of per unit density, per unit area density, we are a thickly populated country. Also, if we look at the impact of climate change, and it is true globally, the Indians or the poor populations, they don't have capacity to recover from the losses they suffer because of the climate change. Today, we do say that it is not India which has contributed to the greenhouse gas emissions to that an extent. But even today, we are suffering. When we talk of climate change, unfortunately, impact of climate change is not going to uniform at the global level. Countries like us, they are going to suffer the most. One thing, and I'll again go back, say 10 years back, you really had to convince the world that climate change is a threat. And we were talking it more from that if it happens like this is what may happen, the extremes of temperature, precipitation, and so on. But today you don't have to convince anyone. And even things which you may not be able to contribute to climate change, we try to even put that blame, like the pandemic perhaps wasn't due to the climate change, but sometimes we do say that maybe the climate change was one of the factors. So therefore today, rightly or wrongly, everything is put on climate change. And good point is that everyone today has become conscious that if the humankind has to survive on this planet, there is no other way than to go for sustainable or cleaner way of development. So therefore we really don't have to convince. And the second part is, do we have processes by which we can go clean? The answer to that again is, yes, we do have technologies. Maybe some of them are expensive today. They are going to take years to pay back. And somewhere it is also that we also have to fine tune the technologies. What has happened in the past, because energy is extremely important for whatever you do, whether you want to practice agriculture, if you want to have even micro irrigation systems, you require energy somewhere. Today we talk of use of drones, use of machinery, so everywhere energy is involved. And as a country, we end up paying so much of our foreign exchange just to meet the demands of petrol and diesel, petroleum products in the country. If we look at the global level, how the countries had developed, again, somewhere it is the kind of natural resource the countries were blessed with. And again, we'll say that, yes, we had many natural resources if we look in terms of biodiversity and so on, but we were not that lucky in terms of petroleum products. You look at the development of rural India or rural parts of the country. Where have they suffered? It's again largely because of energy insecurity. We are talking India as a country, we are still talking about that all villages are getting electrified. But then is it 24 hours reliable energy? Will our rural population be able to afford that? So those are questions which we must look very seriously into. What are the options before us? And as I initially said, that cleaner is greener, and we have to go towards green energy. It is that there is an opportunity now through renewable energy, through other methods of generating like hydrogen, that we can make each and every part of the country more or less equal in terms of energy security. We are talking of renewables, and I'll say solar has already played a very important role. But then coming to other or the newer methods where it is not just for one application, it is going to have, hydrogen is going to have applications in even in sectors which are difficult to abate, like steel and cement manufacturing. One can use it for mobility. One can generate it at the rural level by different methods like biohydrogen and so on. So you are actually killing two birds with one stone, that you are taking care of the waste and at the same time one is able to generate energy. So it is, really speaking, it's going to open so many doors for us for development. Now, for any technology, it is that where the other countries have already reached. As a country, we can't afford to reinvent the broken wheel. It is that the technologies, they have already been developed in Netherlands. Why not to adopt the same? Of course, it is not something plug and play, because those technologies, we need to indigenize them. Our industries are very different. The scale of industries in India are very different from what they are in Netherlands. Our requirements are different. So that is where it is that we need to work together in further customizing that technology for usage in Indian industry. We also have, it's not that it is something new, as His Excellency Mr. Martin Berg has just said, that the relationship with India is over 75 years old. So really speaking, ever since we got independence, we are getting benefits from your country in developing various technologies. So time has come, and really speaking, it is also, it was in the past. I'll say today it is more, where we are saying it's going to be two-way traffic. It is not only like, I should say maybe 2 decades back, it was more of the countries telling us, this is what we can give you. But today it is, this is what we can develop further together. So from giving technology to, I should say, we have graduated to the stage that let's work together to refine this technology further. India definitely is a huge market, which also gives us very different challenges. Those challenges, I'll say that it is something like we can show the way to the world how to move forward. Because it's something, if you can do it in India with the kind of variation, both in socio-economic conditions, then you can do it anywhere in the world. And believe me, we have the best minds. We are really hardworking people. And that is where I'll say that we can not walk, but we can run together. Another thing which pandemic has really shown us is that we only have one planet to live. And whatever happens in one part of the globe is going to have impact on the other part. So really speaking, somewhere it is that none of us, you cannot afford to leave developing economies like us. You have to connect to us if we want a greener planet, a planet on which our next generations will thrive. So that's what I would like to say. So thank you very much once again. Thanks to the team from Netherlands. Thanks to my own colleagues in TERI and all those who are attending the meeting today. And best of luck. I do hope very soon it will be, we are not talking of releasing papers or potential of hydrogen. We will actually come out with that here is the first plant, hydrogen plant or center of excellence on hydrogen, where we will straighten out all the problems, or we'll have a roadmap on which we'll start running together. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're coming to the moment that we've all been waiting for. At least I've been waiting for the moment, the presentation of our report. I've seen previous versions of this report, but I now see on the tables beside me actually a physical copy with a ribbon. So we would like to just symbolically present this report. And for this, we have another special guest in our midst. We have Dr. Rama Kumar. The thing with this report is that we want to get people to come into action mode, as was just said. So we want to inspire people, and therefore it should not disappear into a drawer, but it should be read by researchers, it should be read by government officials, it should be read by businesses. And I think one person that symbolizes and personifies all these positions together is Dr. Raman Kumar. He's working for the Indian Oil Company. And we know Indian Oil Company as one of the biggest government-owned oil companies in the world. It's very high up, I believe, on the global Fortune 500 list. At the same time, it is also a company that is very much investing into renewable energies and taking a lot of research programs in this field. And Dr. Raman Kumar is director at Indian Oil Company and also director of the research and development, and specifically on the hydrogen program. So he will have a small address for us. But before we do so, I would like to ask all three dignitaries to just stand up. And I know we want to go viral, of course, with this presentation. And then you have to do something like an unboxing video. So maybe we can do an unwrapping video, or at least a photo shot, and thereby officially present this report. Why not? Before we start reading, Mr. Ramakumar, I see that you are eager to do so already. I would like to hand you the microphone and you can give us some reflections.
His Excellency Ambassador Martin Berg, Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Mr. Shirish Garud, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank Dr. Vibha Dhawan, who has kindly invited me for this milestone moment where TERI, in collaboration with the Dutch government, has come up with a roadmap for intensifying and reinforcing the cooperation between India and Netherlands on the most important and contemporary topic of hydrogen. As it is being observed, yes, I belong to Indian Oil. I head the R&D function of Indian Oil on the board of Indian Oil. And we are the largest downstream petroleum company of the country with the highest Fortune 500 rating in India. And we are also the front runners in inducting and ushering in hydrogen economy into the country, into our particular domains. In line with the Panchamrit that is what is now, it is being popularly known, what our Honorable Prime Minister has enunciated in the COP26 Glasgow Summit. Out of the 5 principles, with the final target of India reaching net zero goal by 2070. And also simultaneously, he has given another target that India should become the global green hydrogen exporting hub with a possible target formula of 111. 1 kg of green hydrogen within 1 decade to be available for $1. This is the target given by no less than our Honorable Prime Minister. And all the major industries, and more so the oil and gas industry, because even today we are the largest producers and largest consumers of hydrogen. It's a different matter that we produce gray hydrogen and we consume gray hydrogen today. Otherwise, we know how to handle hydrogen. We know the potential of hydrogen. Ahead and to the exclusion of other industrial components to start with right now. So just this is the right environment. Right now, there is a great traction for hydrogen as a renewable and a green fuel. The narrative and the debate within my country, His Excellency, is in the right track. Earlier also there were so many such waves, but they could not be fructified into actions. But we somehow sincerely believe that this time, as a nation, we are just going to walk the talk. What we are contemplating, what we are debating, what we are deliberating. So India is in a, as you rightly, I had the opportunity of having a peep into the abstract of the report that was made by TERI and your entities. So India is in a very advantageous position to usher in hydrogen economy. When I'm saying this statement with all understanding and responsibility, because as many speakers before me observed that India is a great demand center. India is energy hungry country. Energy appetite of this country is very high. The CAGR energy growth rates are very high. The petroleum product growth rate, in spite of all the net zero talk, is projected by all prognostications. Even petroleum product growth rate is at a growth percentage of 3.5 CAGR till 2030. So that is the kind of energy appetite that we have. It's a different thing that how we are going to channelize this energy appetite towards greener direction. So all round efforts are there, and this report is a very welcome report. We know the strengths of Netherlands as an evolved gas grid, gas economy, with a great potential of wind energy as a renewable energy. And I'm sure we know some of the companies. I had the opportunity of interacting with a couple of Dutch companies who just made an entry into India to make biomass-based hydrogen, like High-Gear. We are working on. We are closely interacting with them, and the hydrogen cluster concept that Netherlands is already pursuing is a great thing to be emulated. And I had the great fortune of being the part of a drafting committee of Indian National Hydrogen Roadmap on one aspect, at least on the production aspect. MNRE is the leading ministry, but I'm on the committee of production aspect of green hydrogen. So I'm aware of the key elements that Indian National Hydrogen Mission is going to comprise. This is to be approved by the cabinet right now. Partially, some announcements are already been made by Ministry of Power. For those who may not be knowing, I'm sure this audience must be knowing already, but Ministry of Power, Government of India has already enabled the wheeling of renewable power with ISTS charges, waiving of the ISTS charges. And in contrast to elsewhere geographies, India has given a banking permission of 30 days. Europe, we were told that draft hydrogen policy of Europe is giving only 1 hour permission. Whether it is going to be final, firmed up, is for anybody to see. But in our country, it has already been approved that 30 days banking permission with some banking charges are permitted for green hydrogen production. The green power is concerned. And there is a great plethora of pilot project conception is there in the National Hydrogen Mission to kickstart the demand for green hydrogen in mobility sector, in refining sector, fertilizer sector, steel sector. It's in that priority. The first focus would be on refining sector, followed by fertilizer sector, and then the steel sector. And of course, finally, I personally believe as a person deeply involved in the R&D, energy R&D programs, if hydrogen economy has to become a reality in this country or any other country, I think mobility segment need to be onboarded. But for that to happen, it's not only the hydrogen technology which need to be matured. You need to really work on some of the other enabling technologies like fuel cell technology, because hydrogen, direct usage of hydrogen in internal combustion engine is one pathway. But now it is more or less consensus is being emerged. The best way of using hydrogen in mobility or in automobile application is through fuel cells. Whether it is, again, there is a great debate, PEM fuel cells, SOFC fuel cells. So consensus is also being emerged for a low temperature PEM fuel cell based hydrogen usage in the mobility segment. So a lot of pilot plants are on the anvil on this count. Green hydrogen consumption obligation is being thoroughly deliberated. Various kinds of numbers are being deliberated. How much mandatory hydrogen percentage should become green in these identified 4 priority sectors, to start with refining and fertilizer. These are the 2 sectors. The numbers which are doing rounds is anywhere between 1% to 10%. And the time span is starting from next 2 years to 10 years. So I can present to you, or I can inform you, coming from oil and gas industry, the refining segment is getting itself prepared to convert at least 10% of the total hydrogen being used by the refining segment by 2025 into green. And today, the most mature technology to be adopted is only electrolyzer technology. Though I don't rate as a researcher, even that technology is on TRL 9 scale. I mean, normally commercial adoption will happen only a technology reaches a technology readiness level of 8 to 9. So I don't personally believe that any of the three types of electrolyzer technologies have really reached that level. So there is a great advantage in this uncertainty. Not only India, but the whole world is going to learn and co-learn. I mean, nobody is perfect, nobody is evolved. So we need to learn from each other's experiences. We need to learn from each other's requirements and constraints. I think that way I think we are in a great position. I feel this as a great position. There is no disparity whatsoever. There are no technology haves and have-nots, at least in this domain. So in this context, I think this conception of this roadmap, Indo-Dutch roadmap for collaboration, and this roadmap, I will be definitely very keenly reading this and picking up the points for action and implementation. I'm sure this will give us a great direction, and this will help us identify the mutual strengths. Netherlands recognizing our strengths and we recognizing the Netherlands' strengths, and then forging hands with each other. As Dr. Vibha was mentioning, this is not the time for reinventing the wheel. This is the time for collaboration. This is the time for co-learning and co-implementing. So I think this report, I sincerely hope that it will pave the way for those action plans and for those directions. With these few words, I once again thank Dr. Vibha for giving me this opportunity to be present with you all on this great occasion of launching this report. Thank you very much.
So by this time, I'm sensing some curiosity. What is in this report? I think we want to know by now. So we've got exactly the right person to tell us all about this. The last person on stage that is not introduced yet, that is Dr. Shirish Garud. He is the Director of Renewable Energy Technologies at TERI. And also he was the principal investigator involved in drafting and writing this report, and he put a lot of energy into it. So he's going to present us a few of the main findings of this report. Thanks for being here.
Dignitaries and audience, thanks a lot for sparing your valuable time, and I hope that I'll give justice to your time. So we started this project a few months back with the initiative from the Norwegian embassy. I must thank sorry, Netherlands Embassy. I'm so sorry. I must thank Mr. Doya, Paulina, and Krishna for guiding us throughout this process of preparing the report. We will. The first thing we would like to mention is the concept of clean hydrogen, what we are talking about. Then I'll go through the objectives and the structure of the report. So what we see as clean hydrogen is basically combination of blue hydrogen, which is basically the gray hydrogen with carbon capture, utilization and storage technology integrated. So you have gray hydrogen is basically when one is producing hydrogen using steam methane reformation process by reforming the natural gas or coal. So both of these are fossil fuels, and in this process, carbon dioxide is emitted, and that is basically again a reason for GHG emissions. But if we capture that carbon dioxide and use it either for some manufacturing of chemicals or methane or like what they are doing in Netherlands, using it for greenhouses, for improving agriculture productivity. So there are different type of concepts being produced. So if we use that concept, because we are not straight away going from 100% gray to 100% green, there will be a transition phase, and during this transition phase, what we have is a blue hydrogen with the CCUS technologies, and the combination of that is what is what we call as a clean hydrogen economy, along with, of course, the green hydrogen, which is produced through renewable energy resources, electrolysis process, or through biomass or biomass, either gasification process or biomethanation process, and then converting it into hydrogen. Uh, the the study objectives are very clear. We wanted to have the comprehensive documentation of green hydrogen market and evolving ecosystem in India vis-a-vis that of Dutch green hydrogen sector. We have identified mutually beneficial opportunities for joint collaborations. Focus is on research and business collaborations, both in the industries and in the projects, and also aims to help the Dutch and Indian stakeholders from business, government, academia to understand the current state of Indian hydrogen ecosystem and do the mapping of different sectors. We have seen that hydrogen has three applications. It can be used as a storage for energy. It can be used as an energy source, and also has chemical attributes. So it can be used as a raw material in chemical processes, and that has given it a potential solution to fight climate change and air pollution issues both simultaneously. The falling costs of hydrogen, especially green hydrogen, mainly from falling cost of renewables and also the electrolyzer processes, increasing demand. So there is a market and there is a scale of economy, and also there are policy initiatives by the government. So that makes the hydrogen economy a possible in near future, both for India and globally. And together with the cheap and vast untapped potential of renewables in the country, we have a sweet spot for green hydrogen production. We have huge potential for renewables, and that can be explored for hydrogen production. And as you can see in the diagram, for various applications, be it the industry, transport, the shipping or aviation, road transport, power generation, or even in the house heating, etc. One can use hydrogen as a resource, and that so there are a number of opportunities for this. If we have a quick look at the what has been happening in India in hydrogen. So hydrogen research per se started when India started its mission on renewables in 70s. But in the initial phase, it was mainly focused on some basic sciences research around hydrogen or technologies. In 2006, MNRE came out with a National Hydrogen Energy Roadmap with Vision 2020. So it had huge targets, ambitious targets for development of technologies for applications in different sectors. But not much happened around that except some research and development initiatives by DST and MNRE started, and some small demo projects. In 2016, this report, this roadmap was reviewed by experts committee, and they came out with another recommendations for hydrogen and fuel cell in India. That again gave emphasis on research and development and also on some applications. That also, have had some impact on research initiatives by DST. There were some joint bilateral research programs with some of the countries. In August 21, the Honorable Prime Minister on 15th August, in his address to the nation, he announced the National Hydrogen Mission, and that is when the things really started moving up very fast. Before that, of course, the organizations like IOCL or NTPC and all, they have already started working on hydrogen research projects or some pilot projects or exploring some new concepts. In September, again, the Honorable Minister announced a plan to scale up annual green hydrogen production to 1 million ton by 2030. This was then later on increased to 5 million ton. In February 2022, as mentioned earlier by Dr. Ramakumar, green hydrogen policy was announced because the mission document is undergoing a number of reviews, and there is a lot of discussions and deliberations happening around it. It is viewed as a multi-sectoral major document, so adequate care is required in producing this document. But meanwhile, the initiatives started like green hydrogen policy by the Ministry of Power, where renewable power can be transmitted through national grid, transmission grid without any interstate transmission charges, and also this waiver is for 25 years. So there is a long, long horizon given for hydrogen power plant, hydrogen-based plant or technologies or projects to come in. It has always some other features also. Now, going forward, as mentioned earlier, the government is also thinking of making green hydrogen mandatory for certain segments, and also support schemes like production-linked incentives and for electrolyzers, and different support schemes or different initiatives are being planned. So on the whole, the things are moving very fast. Just some synopsis of what has been happening. MNRE has invested about $3.3 million US dollars on fuel cell research in different this thing. They have also supported production of green hydrogen storage and some pilot projects of concept projects. The Department of Science and Technology and the Ministry of Science and Technology, which is coordinating ministry for all the scientific research, basic science research, has launched hydrogen and fuel cell program, the Advanced Hydrogen Fuel Cell Program. to support indigenous development and commercialization. It also launched a research program for under the Mission Innovation, which is international collaboration for R&Ds. And then as a result of that, a number of research institutes, be it IITs, be it Indian Institute of Sciences, be it national institutes, CSR, the Central Scientific and Industrial Research Labs. So there is a lot of research happening in green hydrogen or in electrolysis or hydrogen storage and other technologies. IOCL itself is playing an important role with the center and research program. In 2020, we came out with a first report of assessment of hydrogen demand in the country. Currently, we are having a hydrogen demand of about 6.2 or 6.3 million tons per annum, primarily from fertilizer and refinery industries. We expect that it will go up to 28 million tons by 2050, driven by these industrial sectors along with refinery fertilizers, but steel and cement will come in picture. And in the latest phase, the transport segment can also pick up. The graph shows the way the demand will go up, and we expect that a major development will start happening after 2030. By that time, we'll have hydrogen production units or technologies stabilized, and green hydrogen availability will improve. So basically, that's the way we look at the future for green hydrogen. There are a lot of initiatives by Indian industries. Some of them have been mapped here. I'll not go through all the details, but the report basically has extensive mapping of all the R&D projects which are happening around the country, all the research and development happening, and also the initial initiatives by different industries in the country. Recently, Niti Aayog has come out with a report on hydrogen and what India can achieve. As per their estimates, we can have about 6 gigawatt or 5 million ton of green hydrogen generation facility domestically, which will help in meeting our 500 gigawatt renewable energy target. Because when you are having such a big target, because currently we have about 400 gigawatt installed electricity generation capacity. If we are going to increase it to increase it by another 400 or so to reach the 500 gigawatt renewable targets, how are we going to use this electricity? So hydrogen can be one of the way where can use this electricity. We can also have green steel production, because India is one of the largest steel manufacturer in the world, and we can have steel industry. And particularly in this case, Netherlands, the Tata Steel, which is in India, is one of the oldest and largest steel manufacturer, has facilities in Netherlands, and they are already working on hydrogen or green steel technologies. So there is also complementarity in that respect between Netherlands and India. We can have electrolyzer manufacturing capacity, plus the Niti Aayog report estimates about $1 billion investment in hydrogen research and development. And that's going to be, if that is, that is kind of a huge investment target. If we go by the Niti Aayog report, I think there is a good scope for joining hands with research institutes, joint research. Very brief, in Netherlands, there are about 150 odd hydrogen-related organizations, the industries, research groups, development groups, and they are working on green hydrogen storage, utilization, transportation. Um, Today the hydrogen production accounts for 10% of its national gas consumption, and mind you, Netherlands is one of the largest gas consuming country in the world, and they have already announced their national hydrogen strategy, which is basically look at about 3 to 4 gigawatt electrolyzer capacity installation by 2030. So which is quite similar to our targets. There also strategy also links green hydrogen and offshore wind, because Netherlands has huge potential for offshore winds, and they already started pilot projects on generating hydrogen in offshore sites using seawater, and then taking it from the platform to the land. And that is something which I feel is quite exciting in our context, because we are just entering into offshore wind market, and we have about 71 gigawatt offshore wind capacity potential mapped so far in Gujarat and Tamil Nadu coast areas. So we have a huge potential for that, and we can integrate that offshore along with the technologies developed by Netherlands for hydrogen generation in the offshore plant, and the experience mainly to handle such projects. So they are looking at a flexible, fast-moving network of companies, and a lot of these field labs, the projects, we have a large number of companies working together, and that's an excellent example of cooperation. And I think that is something which we can leverage. And one of the concept is Hydrogen Valley. I think Professor Arvind, he is leading one of the Hydrogen Valley projects, so we'll have a presentation from them as well. There are projects where developing hydrogen powered trucks, ships, refueling stations, etc. So I think we have large areas for cooperation with the Netherlands. As a part of our study, we had interaction with the Dutch and Indian research communities, and there are certain findings and recommendations coming out of these interactions, which are tabulated here. And again, I will not get into the details, but that is shared in the report itself. So one of the key area was to set up talent and expert exchange program. So that means not only the student exchange, but also exchange of experts from both the countries, so that the exchange of ideas happen at a higher level, and establish Indo-Dutch a center of excellence for hydrogen. I think that is something one can really look at with the initiatives we have. We have a representative from IUCL or INTPC, and we can look at some excellent training centers, because these training center of excellence can for developing the capacity, the workforce which is required to handle hydrogen, and put up the power plants, run the power plants, testing testing infrastructure. So there are a number of activities need to be done, and that is something which we can do together. So along with green hydrogen, as I mentioned, there is also a lot of research happening in Netherlands on carbon capture and utilization, CCUS technologies, and that is something which we can reach. We also had an interaction from business to business perspective. So both businesses from both the countries, we had interaction, and the recommendations again focus on developing manufacturing facilities for fuel cells and electrolyzers, also there is a considerable Indian investment can also happen in facilities in Netherlands because we have good bilateral relationships as mentioned earlier for 75 years, but there are about 200 odd Dutch companies working in India and equal number of Indian companies which are working in Netherlands. So there is already very good exchange at the business community level also. So I think that is something which can be leveraged. And we propose that government to government interaction with the respective ministries is one area one can do that. And also one can have city level cooperations or city level joint programs, something on the lines of Hydrogen Valley. So in short, we look at some collaboration platforms for joint research work and opportunities for technology transfer or exchange. And then as I mentioned, the Indo-Dutch Center of Excellence, and of course, TERI will be more interested in taking initiatives forward. We look at the major opportunities in the areas of technology transfer, consultancy and investments all. So there is a good opportunity we see for Indo-Dutch collaboration in this area. Thank you very much. So these are a couple of our earlier reports which are available on our website for hydrogen and how to make hydrogen in India and potential for hydrogen in